You're listening to the Wanderlusting Wives podcast, your podcast for escaping life's monotony, indulging in your wildest travel fantasies, and discovering the constant beauty of this ever-changing world.
On today's episode, Alicia Demetropolis joins us to talk all about the beautiful and magical country of Nepal.
Welcome to the Wanderlusting Wives podcast. We are your navigators, Allison
and Regan. Welcome to another episode of the Wanderlusting Wives podcast, and we're really excited for today's destination, and I think you're all going to love it. It's a destination that you've probably heard of, but you probably haven't delved into, at least not in this way. So really excited, but before we get to introduce our guest for today, Allie, go ahead and plug our social media.
All right, if you're new here, you can follow us on pretty much every social media platform. You can find us on Twitter or X at Wanderlust Wives, Facebook Wanderlusting Wives Podcast, and Instagram at Wanderlusting Wives. Also, we'd love any and all reviews you're willing to give us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your podcasts.
Yes, the most podcaster thing to say. Wherever you listen to your podcast, one of our most recent guests was posting on her social media, and she even used the phrase. She was like, "Listen on Spotify or wherever you listen to your podcast." I was like, "Yes, this is the podcasting community. You get this." But anyways, I digress. Our guest for today is going to be speaking about Nepal, and actually we're going to bring her on for another episode later in the fall, but more on that later. Welcome, Alicia Demetropolis. We're so excited to have you.
Hello. I'm so excited to be here. I really am. I love your podcast, you guys.
Thank you. Well, we're super excited to have you. We know that you are an author, so we'll give you a chance here to share a little bit about your book before we dive into Nepal, because it ties in together. So the floor is yours. Also, if you have some social media you want people to follow you on, you can share that as well.
Thank you. I am an author. I wrote a book. It took me many years. It started with my first trip to Nepal in 2017, where I just felt this bizarre, overwhelming need, this driving force to go to Nepal, and having no real explanation for it. It turned out to be the genesis for my new nonprofit, the Global Humanity Initiative, which I incorporated in 2018. So it took me a really long time to write this book. I started downloading everything from my brain, from the journals, from my emails, kind of matching it up to all the photos that I took. And it took me 8 months to just download everything that happened and try to make sense of everything that happened and try to process it. And it came out to 550,000 words, which was really long. And it took quite a while for the book to tell me what it was supposed to be about. And looking back, it's kind of a no-brainer. It's the story of how the nonprofit came to be, what I found when I got there, why I started this nonprofit, how Nepal doesn't really want you to know that some of this stuff is going on because everything's just supposed to be happy and shiny. And so the book is called Drowning in Now, A Search for God and Humanity at the Top of the World. It is on Amazon, or because I love my own local bookstore, Pacific Mist Books here in Sequim, Washington, I would encourage everyone to go to your local bookstore and ask them to order it for you. They can get it through Ingram as well. So shop local, stay local. Please buy my book, but shop local, stay local. And so that's the book, and kind of a little bit of background on how I ended up just going to Nepal after having this obsession for years, inexplicable obsession.
Yeah. Man, oh man. That's incredible. All those words. And I mean, I guess that's a really great kind of summary of what going somewhere else, whether it's literally like traveling across the world or whether it's going into a new community or something like that. It's like all of those words are the possible interactions, the possible experiences, the possible lessons you'll learn. That is such a testament to what travel can do for you. And you put it in a book, and I just recently like got connected with you through the podcast, and I'm so excited to read the book. Like, it's just so awesome.
Yeah, book's only 82,000 words, so
Yeah.
I don't want people freaking out. It really it got pared down, really got pared down. And you're absolutely right. All those words, if you're connected even partway to your soul, then travel changes you. And that's a beautiful way of saying it, Regan. I never thought about all those words being not just a synopsis of everything that happened, but also a recording or a record of how it changed me and how it impacted me. I never thought about that. So,
Yeah, that's beautifully said. Traveling changes you in more ways than you probably even understand.
Yeah.
So let's get into it with Nepal. So you were there for about 3 months, right? And
yes.
what were you doing there? I know you said you felt this pull to go there. Did you know why you needed to go there? Did you ever figure that out? What was kind of the goal in mind when going to Nepal?
So I really hadn't put much thought into it. All I knew is that I had to go. I had to go. I had to go. And I tried for a few years. I actually tried to go to India, figuring that was the close. I always had these opportunities to go to India. And in the back of my mind, I thought, well, that's the closest I'm ever going to get. I might as well take it. And I remember when the earthquakes hit in Nepal, I was ridiculously frantic that I had to be there. I had to go there. I had to help. And I talk about this in the opening of the book. My husband was very rational. He's like, well, okay. However, you don't know anyone there. You don't know where you're going. You don't know how to get to where you're needed. You don't speak the language. You're really just going to get in the way. And he was right. And so 1 year after the second earthquake hit, there were two earthquakes and lots of aftershocks. And exactly 1 year to the day, the second earthquake hit, my mother died. And I just thought, oh, okay. It's time to go to Nepal. It was just like, no, your business here is done. So let's go do your business in Nepal. And I had been following one Nepali NGO for several years, did my research on them. They seemed good. You never know until you get there. They seemed good. They seemed worthy of my money and my trust. And so I signed up for their elder care program because that's what I was familiar with doing here. And I had all these certifications they don't have there. And I wanted to see how I could help. It was basically the only way I could think of going. And I didn't know anyone there, and I didn't know what was going to happen. And I talk about it in the book too. A lot of people think Nepal is just this happy, fun, mellow place. And that's what Nepal has worked very hard towards having people see. And I'm not denying the people are lovely. The people are wonderful. The people are beautiful. I have my family there now. I make new friends every time I go. It is a magical place. It is ancient. This parts of Nepal were on the Silk Road. So it is ancient. It's got ancient energy. And people are either going to feel it or not feel it when they're there. They're going to fight it or they're going to give into it. But this image that Nepal wants to portray is a little bit different than what I found. I found old people in the streets. These are homeless elders. And as the years have gone by, I'm finding that Nepal continues to insist they don't have any homeless elders in the streets. Nope, everything's fine. Nope, you didn't see them. I'm like, I'm sorry, what? Who am I taking care of at the elder care home in Farping? Um, so we just have to be careful when we're traveling and remember that there's always another side to what we're seeing. Because a lot of times what we're seeing is very carefully cultivated by the local tourist board. And please go to Nepal. They need your money. They need your tourist dollars. Please don't go climb Everest. You're not qualified. I don't care how much you think you can. But please go to Nepal, spend your dollars, take the time to get to know the locals. It's wonderful. It's beautiful. But always remember there's something more that you're not seeing. I don't know what the question was now at this point. I've been babbling so long, I forgot.
No, but I love
Yeah,
the
you covered
direction
that.
it went in. Yeah, that's a huge part of travel. And before we started recording, we talked about how we kind of saw that not necessarily from a governmental standpoint, but just like from a lack of accountability for tourists in Iceland, and like trash just being everywhere. And that's, yeah, don't go climb Everest because you want to be macho and you think you can, and that's the thing that you need to do to like make your life satisfactory. But if you do that, then also don't leave your trash around, and like get to know the people.
Right.
Don't just go to resorts or things like that. That's a really important aspect of travel that Allie and I talk about a lot about too. So no, I don't know what the question was either, but I love where it ended up. And I actually want to circle back around to this idea of the ancient energy. Could you like describe that a little bit further? I'm fascinated by this.
I think my first experience with it was knowing that I was going home. I mean, for me, apparently, from an astrocartography standpoint, that is my home based on where the planets were aligned when I was born. I don't know. I don't get it. That's what I was told, and it made sense because I felt like I was going home. But I got there, and for me personally, why I went was one of your questions. I do strongly believe, and this is my experience, everybody has their own spiritual beliefs. That's cool. That's why there are so many different people, because if we were all the same, it wouldn't be fun. For me personally, I believe I went there to close out unfinished business, or to start to close out unfinished business, because I just knew people. And even to this last trip in March, April, May, I'm seeing people on the street. Never seen them before in my life. And they look at me and I look at them, I'm like, oh my God. And they say, oh my God, how are you? I'm great. How are you? I'm great. Are you going to be around? Yeah, I'll be here. I'm going to go to the restaurant. Never seen them before in my life, but we know each other. And when you walk through the streets, so many of the streets were never built for cars. You can't fit two subcompact cars down these roads. And yet people still try to drive SUVs down the roads. So there was one time where I was walking with my Nepali brother and his then girlfriend, now wife. And it's in the dark, after hours. The story isn't in the book. They wouldn't let me buy something because they wanted to buy it for me. And I knew they wanted to buy it for me because I understood enough Nepali at that time. And I didn't want them to buy it for me, but I didn't want to eavesdrop on their conversation. And they're dragging me through the streets back to the car. And I remember just thinking, I felt this. It's weird. I felt this familiarity. I'm like, we have done this before somewhere on some level. We have been here before. Following Davina through Kathmandu Square, and she had a hold of my hand so she wouldn't lose me through the crowds. And she turned around to look at me, and I'm like, we've done that before. And since then, we've had it's like history keeps repeating itself. And you feel this. The first elder care home I was at, there was this deep depression, sadness, really, really deep, heavy feeling right there in that center on that land. And it was just very obvious, very apparent. But then you get out and you walk through the streets and you can just, I can't explain it exactly, but you're someplace very, very old. You know that, not just looking at the buildings and seeing some of these buildings that are still 100 years old. A lot of them came down in the earthquake, but there's still a lot of buildings around. Lost a lot of temples during the earthquake. But there's a lot there that is just, it's not, it feels deep. It feels like you're more connected to the earth, more connected to the place. It feels like there's so much going on around you, layers and levels of things going on around you. And it's not something that anyone would understand if they're not looking for it or not in tune with it. I have people who go to Nepal and they just, yeah, I went. People were nice. I have other people who have been to Nepal and they think, I just felt so much there. I felt all this old energy. It's like layer and layer and layer and years and years and years of people walking through the streets or people traveling through the mountains or life. I'm just babbling at this point. I'm sorry. I don't know how else to explain it, but to say that you're just aware there's so much more there. And like I said with my friends, I'm aware that it's time just seems to keep repeating.
Yeah.
And not just in this lifetime, but I go there and I'm very aware we've done this before. We're going to do it again.
It's almost meditative. Like, it's just, yeah.
That's really unique. And now you've been to Nepal a couple of times now. So as soon as you landed there your first time, did you really start to feel these connections, or did it take a couple of times being there, or maybe a couple of weeks before you really started to feel like, wow, this is where I'm meant to be? I've experienced these things already. Or has it happened over time?
So this was my 5th trip to Nepal. The minute I stepped off the plane,
Mm-hmm.
the minute I stepped off the plane, I knew I was supposed to be there. I knew I was connected. And this trip was no different. I come back and I start laughing. I just start giggling. I just start smiling. Stupid smile. And I'm very happy. The connections with people, as soon as I met them, as soon as I saw them, I walked into Dill's services shop and he looked at me and I looked at him. And for us, this is something woo-woo to say, I know someone from a previous life. We kind of tend to talk about it in hushed tones, or you only talk about it around someone you know understands. Not everybody believes in reincarnation. And for your listeners, I'm using air quotes. In the Hindu religion, we have to remember that there are 4 religions: Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism. Can't remember the 4th religion. They're all based on the Vedic texts. So the religion themselves, Hinduism as an organized religion, is about 4,000 years old. But the Vedic texts go back at least 1,000 years before that. And the Vedic texts, which we're talking 5,000 years old, very openly talks about how we go around again. And so this is a part of their everyday life. There's no, oh, gee, where do I know you from? Or, oh, gee, do you believe in reincarnation? We look at each other, and like at one point, Dill looked at me and he started calling me sister. He introduced me, this is my sister. I meet other people. Like I said, I met this man in the road. I was going to his restaurant and he just looked at me and he was shocked to see me again. Oh God, how are you? It's just who they are. They understand that we've known each other before. So those connections are instant. And going to Farping, to the elder care home in Farping to work, instant. I knew I'd lived there before. I'm like walking through the hills. I'm like, yep, yep, yep. I know this. I know this. And oddly enough, I'll tell you guys this. There's a point out in the valley when I'm at Farping and I go for my little walk, 5 o'clock in the morning, and I walk way out through the valley and I all the way around through the hills. It's gorgeous, by the way. Down through the hills and around this hill and up that hill. It's a pretty tough walk, but I can only walk a certain distance. And then there is this, for lack of a better word, force field. And it's the same spot every year. And last year I walked, I said, I haven't been here. Everything's going to be different. I'm not going to notice it. I'm not going to remember it. And my brain starts to go numb and I hit the spot and I start walking back and forth across the road. I can't walk any further. And people are looking at me weird. I cannot walk through it. I'm like, no, you can do this. No, I can't. My body will not walk any further. And this year I'm like, I'm just going to go. I'm not going to recognize it. Nothing's going to happen. Nope. I couldn't even get near it because there was so much mud in the road this year. But so there's something I can't explain. And now I'm obsessed with this point. I want to get in a car and try to drive through it and see if the car will go through it. I'm just obsessed with this. I'm like, I know I've been here before. Now, why can't I go through that spot? So yeah, all the connections are instantaneous and new connections are being made all the time. And have I closed out the business that I went there the first time to close out? I don't know. This last trip weirdly felt like stuff was coming 360 and I was closing out business. So I don't know. I feel like there's a big growth change coming for me now. And I don't know what that means. I'm kind of anxious to see what that means.
Yeah. Yeah, that's an exciting, possibly pivotal moment to like see that really come full circle for you. Oh man. Yeah, and everything you're talking about too, specifically when you're thinking about religion and how Western religion tends to be very different. Like it's very like Catholicism, Christianity, like Western religion is just different. And when you go to someone's home, whether that be their literal home or their home country, like you are stepping into a world that has already existed without your presence in it, where you have to respect and honor the culture that's there and not bring your own baggage with you to try and like push it onto people. It's like you are there not just to experience the beauty and the culture and the food and things like that. You're also there to bear witness to a society that is different from yours. And you just have to be ready to accept that, as different as it may be. And that's just a really excellent point that you make, to keep things like that in mind. And I'm wondering if there were other aspects of the culture that were really kind of different from Western culture and what to expect. It sounds like there's quite a bit, but like what would stand out to you?
First things first, not all Nepalese do this. And the original people who settled the land before Nepal was Nepal didn't practice this. This came in the last, I guess, couple hundred years. They practice animal sacrifice. And last year, Dakshin Kali it's in Farping near the elder care home. It's about a 45-minute walk from the elder care home. And I went there the first time in 2017, and it was a holiday, and there was a lot of animal sacrifice going on. And it happens in another building. So you don't have to see it if you don't want to. And the animal sacrifices take place Tuesdays and Saturdays. So I thought, I'm safe. I'm going on a Wednesday. I just want to go. I just want to have a peaceful experience. And last year, everyone was taking their shoes off to go into the temple. But I'm a Westerner, and I didn't want to seem, like you said, Regan, I'm in their country. This year, everybody's taking their shoes off to go in. All right, fine. I'll take my shoes off. I don't want to seem like I'm going to force my way on them. Well, I walk in, and going back to that heavy, dark energy, so much. It was heavier than I've ever felt it. I couldn't take it. I got out of there. I walked all the way back to the elder care home, trying to compose myself. I get all the way back to the elder care home, sit down. First thing I do is I have tea with the woman who is there day to day and a couple of the caregivers, and we talk, and I showed him some of the photos. And my hair was really long back then, and I had it pulled up. Then I said, all right, I got to go take a shower. I got to wash this off of me. I can't stand this. I can't stand any of this. I go up to take a shower, you guys. I take down my hair in the shower, and a 3-inch cockroach falls out. And I'm standing there in the shower, and I'm like, okay, Leash, do you need another sign not to go back there ever again? Ever. There's no need. So the big thing for me, and people really need to be ready for it, because they like to go there for the holidays. But otherwise, one of the things you feel all across the land is this heaviness from all of this animal sacrifice that's been going on. And you feel it more in some places than other places. And I can't force my will on them. I can't berate people for doing it. And it's not up to me to change.
That's really hard because, like you said, you have such a strong connection there, but to see something so terrible and that you have such strong feelings against, it's probably really hard to experience that and be there for that. So are there maybe traditional things or parts of their culture that you really do love and that you feel you feel are a positive or something that people could look forward to if they were to go to Nepal?
I think the Nepali people love a party. So there's always a festival going on. There's always something to celebrate. Dashain is a 2-week holiday. It's very holy. They come out of that and they go right into Tihar, which is like a 1-week festival of lights. And it's the festival of light overcoming darkness. It's probably their way of trying to cleanse the earth. I don't know. But I mean, that's really the one thing about Nepal is there's always a party. People are generally always happy. They don't like looking back. They only like to look forward. So if something happened last year that didn't go well, their focus is on how do we make it better this year? So that's the one good thing. For me personally, being female, being aware of, I'm older than you guys, I'm old enough to be your mother, being aware of how far we've come in this country and being aware of how far women's rights has come in Nepal and how far it still has to go. So while Nepal is always about looking forward, I'm always aware of how far women's rights have come. Women are now allowed to file for divorce. That's recent. I'm proud of how far Nepal has come. I'm glad they only want to look forward. They've had some problems. They still have problems, but we're going to focus on what's good and what's positive. They're always very positive people. They don't like to complain. They don't like to say what's wrong. And I think that's commendable in many ways. Yeah. But the festivals, you want to go to Nepal? Oh my God, the festivals are great. Go for Holi. Go for Holi. Go just There's so many festivals. Go there, enjoy yourself. There's so many good things about Nepal. Just be aware that there is another side. And there are lots of temples where Westerners aren't allowed in anyway,
Mm.
because we raised such a stink that we're not allowed in anymore. Okay. I don't have to go in.
Oh man. Oh, and now I want to go. The Festival of Lights. What did you say that was called?
Tihar.
Bihar. Oh, that's gotta be beautiful.
Tihar. And oh, it's beautiful. People in their apartment buildings, they'll just take these super long LED rope lights or just standard rope lights, whatever, and they'll just hang 100 feet of all different colors out the window over their balcony. They're just lights, colored lights hanging everywhere. And tea lamps stay lit outside people's doors all the time. It's beautiful. It's wonderful.
Oh, it does. It sounds magical. And when I think of festivals and parties, that brings me to my favorite aspect of traveling, which listeners, everybody say it with me, is food. It's food. Yep, good job. You all said it. All good gold stars. So I'm very curious because this is a cuisine that you don't see really. You see Indian restaurants, you see like Thai and Chinese restaurants. Like you kind of have the two sides, but you don't see a lot of Nepalese restaurants around in the United States. So tell us a little bit about like what the cuisine is like in Nepal.
Spicy, really spicy, spicier than anything I had ever eaten before.
Mm.
And not like the spicy we had here. And it's not an Indian spice. This is more flavorful spice. I'm not into jalapenos and stuff like that. They do add a little jalapeno to some of their dishes, but it's really spicy. They eat what they can grow. So there's a lot of the staple of their diet is rice and lentil soup. And that's called dal bhat. Dal, D-A-L, is the lentil soup, and bhat, B-H-A-T, is the rice. And it goes together. They say dal bhat because that's what you eat. That's the staple. If you want to take a homeless person food, you don't take them something from the Western restaurant. You package up some dal bhat and you take it to them. It's their comfort food. It's what they know. They manage to eat it with their fingers. Everything you eat with your right hand, only your right hand. So that's and the lentil soup isn't spicy. The lentil soup is usually flavorful. But then we get into the curry and the spicy curry, and we'll have greens, zucchini, okra, potatoes, cauliflower, lots and lots of cauliflower. There's mushrooms, whatever they can grow, they eat. Surprisingly, no broccoli, only cauliflower. Don't know why. Green beans, loads and loads and loads of vegetables. Big on ramen.
Yeah.
Did you know there's a spicy ramen only served overseas? You can't buy it here.
What?
A spicy curry ramen, and I've looked at the boxes and it says not for resale outside Nepal. I'm like, oh, stinkers! I can't take any home. So they're big on ramen. If you go to a restaurant, chances are good you're going to eat a momo, chicken or veg momo, and that is just the same thing as a pot sticker. We have pot stickers. We have all the same type of dumpling. It's like in Italy, you have ravioli. It's just flat.
Mm-hmm.
But if you change the dough and you make it into a half moon and you pinch the edges, you got a momo. So momos are really big there. That's their claim to fame. I mean, the food is really good, whether you eat local food or Western food. Western food is just now really starting to take off. And so they have like upscale Western restaurants. but I still go to the falafel hut and get
Mm,
myself a falafel
sounds
wrap,
great.
um, which I love. So the cuisine is really good. I do not recommend eating a local dish if you're going to someone's home and they're making it with chicken. They don't just cut up the chicken meat. They take a butcher knife, big old butcher knife. They stick the chicken on the workbench and then they just chop it to pieces, bones and all.
Hmm.
So I would recommend just skip the chicken at someone's home.
Hmm.
So that's the food.
Ugh, I love food. It sounds amazing, and it's really interesting. I'm gonna get on that soapbox again about food and how it's a story and it's a very integral part of every culture. But this in particular is really interesting to me because you really see the influence of like a more Indian uh, culture in terms of the food, and then more of like from the Asian side, whether it's Chinese, like ramen, Chinese coming right in. And it's just interesting to see kind of the intersection and how they create their own from that. And that just fascinates me. It sounds amazing. I want to go.
And you always, I sit there and I wonder, so how did this happen? Like, did someone create it independently? I mean, Italy created their ravioli, and then before we were all really traveling to other countries, did everybody just create their own
Right.
little dough-filled pockets of goodness?
Right.
How did that happen? Right.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, it's
pretty
like
wild. I mean, samosas and dumplings and pot stickers and empanadas even. It's like there's empanadas are a little more fried, but it's just yeah, it's wild.
We have samosas in Nepal. We don't call them samosas, but we have samosas there too. Crazy.
There you go.
mhm. Like what came
Wild. Love
first, the
it.
chicken or the egg, the ravioli or the dumpling? We may never know.
Well, in Nepal, if you're at someone's house, the whole chicken's in there, so it doesn't matter.
That's true too.
Wow. This has been such an awesome conversation. And like, I'm going to be honest, I did not think it was going to go in this direction. And also, I'm just like so excited that it did. I don't know. It's just been so different and so informative and interesting in a way that is just like so unique. So, Alicia, thank you so much for sharing and like being so, I don't know, just like deep and open about your experiences. It's been really, really insightful and exciting.
Thank you. I appreciate the chance to share. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. All
Now the
right.
fun part,
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
the travel blitz.
Okay, I'm
Yeah.
ready. I'm ready.
And it doesn't have to be
I'm
about
ready.
Nepal.
Okay.
So starting off strong here, what is your number one travel tip or hack?
Most countries, of course, don't have wash rags, so you have nothing to wash yourself with.
Mm.
I use my socks. I turn my socks inside out, get the scritchy part, and then I soap them up really good in the shower. And then I cut down my time showering by half because I'm washing with both hands. When you're all done, scrub your socks really good, rinse them out really good. They're washed, they'll be dry the next morning, and you're clean.
Dang. Oh, shoot. That
One sock on each hand, baby.
genius.
Yeah, it's kind of like doing laundry at the same time too.
Yeah.
I know.
Wow. Real time saver. I need to tell my mom about this. Oh, all right.
I keep thinking I should do it here, but my husband would think I'm a little nuts. Yeah.
All right. Moving on to question number 2 here. Your top 3 favorite destinations that you have been to.
Okay. We're not going to count Nepal.
Okay. Fair enough.
Top 3 favorite destinations. Siena in Italy. Gorgeous, beautiful. Again, felt like I'd been there before. Greece. I was in Greece for a little over a week with my parents when they were alive. And it was really cool seeing where my ancestors came from. It was very different back in the 90s. We were up in the mountains. It was just 1,000-year-old olive trees and goats wandering the roads. It was wonderful. And then the third place would have to be Epsom, England. I mean, of all places. My friends lived there, and I just liked it. It was very comfortable. So 3 kind of out of the way places.
Yeah,
love
but
it.
unique. Yeah, that's great. So what are 3 destinations that you want to go to?
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Bali.
Mm.
I don't know why. I'm not really a hot weather beach kind of person, but I just want to see what it's all about. And Ireland, really, really, really badly. I really want to go to Ireland. Third place, I want to go to Alaska. It's just like, it's just a few hours north of me, but I really want to go to Alaska. It's not very exotic. It's not Bali, but I want to go to Alaska.
Yeah.
That's still a great option.
My
Yeah.
list too. Yep. Awesome. Okay. Question number 4. What is the strangest thing you've eaten while traveling?
So I'm going to go back to this last trip to Nepal, where my younger brother and his wife and his daughter wanted to make me dinner. And this is his specialty. He makes fried fish. And I'm ready for this. Okay. Been down this road with them before, and they made me fish, and they were just these little sardine things that they had fried whole with the eyes, and I couldn't do it. I couldn't eat them. So this time they're like, we're going to have you over for dinner. Akal's going to make his fish. He loves making his fried fish. I'm like, okay, Leash, you're ready for this. You're ready for whatever comes. They served, they cut off the head, gut the fish, and fry it like that, tail and all. And I looked at it, and my first thought was, this looks good. I'm like, wow, this actually looks good. And it was really good. There's barely any meat on it. And you've got to see, and I'm trying to pick the bones out while I'm eating, while they eat the tail and all. They just leave the bones. I'm like, I'm not eating the tail. I'm not going that far. I'm not going that far. I mean, I ate as much as I could. I can't eat the tail. I can't do it.
And then last but not least, the top thing you can't travel without besides like, your toothbrush and your socks and
My
yeah.
socks. Yeah. I wouldn't have anything to wash
Yep.
myself with. So the top 3 things
Just
or the
one.
one thing?
Yeah, one's fine.
Just one thing I can't travel without. Boy, that's a toss up. Paper clips. And that's going to sound really, really strange, but I have found people who needed a way to get their SIM card out of their phone, and I just pull a paper clip off of my notebook, and they open it up and they use it. Other people have said, because you can't find stuff in third world countries, and you don't know where to go, and not everybody, they just don't have paper clips. So I keep like a half a dozen or more paper clips just all over my binders, my notebooks. And this year, I'm on the 4th floor, another travel tip for your listeners. I'm on the 4th floor of the hotel, and I washed my t-shirts, hung them on the hanger, and instead of hanging them in front of the clothing closet, whatever it's called, I decided to hang them on the drapery rod right in front of the open window with no screen. And because the hangers are really small and my t-shirts are really big, I took paper clips and I paper clipped the front collar and the back collar together to keep them tightly snug on the hangers as they hung in the window. So a breeze didn't come off and knock them off onto the courtyard in the middle of the trash down there.
That's genius.
So I've used paper clips for everything. And other people ask me, you don't happen to have a paper? Yeah, actually I do. You want yellow? You want blue? You want metal? Like a drug dealer. You want some blues? You want some yellows?
That's genius. I never would have thought of that.
Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
wow. I don't even use paper clips, but now I feel like I'm like, not giving them enough credit. They need to be used more.
Keep them on hand. You never know.
I can find in a third world country, baby, you find use for everything.
That's a good point.
Really.
And that feels like a great point to wrap up our episode on. So, Alicia, thank you so much once again for coming on and chatting with us. This has been great. Is there anything else you want to share with our listeners before we sign off?
I would encourage everybody to go out and find their passion. Go out and have an adventure. You don't have to travel to a third world country. You just have to do something that's different, maybe puts you outside your comfort zone just a little bit. Go grow, go learn, go explore, go dig in your backyard. You know, just go live life.
Yeah.
That's all I can close on.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I don't think you need to say more. Yeah, that was beautifully said. So thanks again for joining us, and make sure you check out Alicia's book and be watching the podcast. She's going to be back later this year. Thanks for tuning in to the Wanderlusting Wives podcast. Come escape with us again every other Tuesday for Travel Tuesdays.
Don't forget to give us a subscribe and a follow on all of our social media and wherever you listen to your podcasts. And until next time, wander on!